Oh no! That's not happening.
G'day fixers. Now I've got my sharpening kit all sorted out, it has to have a home. So I'm going to pop it up here on this shelf and measuring out, luckily, a scrap of the melamine that I used to build my clamping bench was the perfect fit for that little alcove. This is nothing but a glorified box. However, using melamine, I had to make sure I scored through the cuts to not blow it out. Doesn't really matter that much in this particular project, but it's good practice to be in. Doing that partial cut gives you a nice clean edge. This is another great project for using up my offcuts, but they weren't exactly the same width all the way across. So grabbing the hand plane, not sure if it's terribly good for the blade, but it's still blunt at this stage anyway. And it worked to get these side walls down to the right height. Because I'm using melamine and gluing the wood bit to the plastic bit, I'm using a polyurethane glue, as it should stick to both of those surfaces. No fancy joinery here, everything will just be butt joints and screws. This is a practical build, and one that is not needing to look too pretty. The stuff that's going in, it's quite heavy too, so we're making this box nice and solid. Overkill you might call it. And of course, limited by my dimensions, my little Waterstone holder was not going to fit, so being very careful to avoid the screws and not destroy my new Japanese tool saw, I first used that to basically just break the edge again to preserve the melamine, and then use the miter saw for the bulk of the clearing out duties. Quick file to cane the sharp edges. And time to get my dividers sorted. A little flattening trough will go in that side, and we'll split it out from the Waterstone holder. Because the stuff going in here is going to be a little bit wet sometimes, not super wet, but damp, the melamine was a great choice, but it should last a bit longer than MDF or plywood would have. There we go, that's looking good. Now I did have a little bit of leftover space, so trying to use it up efficiently. We popped over to the drill press, and you'll see why in a second. Once more, preserving the nice white face with as smooth edges as I can, we went in from both directions. The more I use my hand tools, the more excuses I'm finding to use my hand tools. A lot of the time they are just faster than breaking out the power tools, especially for little fiddly jobs like this one. That's the stropping paste now got a good home for itself, and because I couldn't be bothered and didn't have any edge banding, we're just going to paint all of those exposed edges white. And then I decided I was going to add a little handle on the front. That offcut was exactly how you saw it, and we'll drill it in from the back. A little 90-degree angle drill, making that job a lot easier. $10 Audi win. There we go, got a little end grain feature going on the handle. Pity didn't screw it in straight. Nah well. And you know what's better than one tray? 2 trays! I'll save you going through all of it again, but we are going to have a top layer, and those little feet will help me to locate it. As a super happy bonus feature, I also wanted a small strop that would live in there, so it's going to be adorably cute and tiny, because it had to fit into the white box. And fortunately, I could steal some of Wifey's leather from her kit upstairs. Shh, she'll never notice. And again, using the old polyurethane glue and making sure I get full coverage on that thin piece of MDF instead of the contact adhesive that you're supposed to use. Crossed my fingers, clamped it down, and hope that worked. I actually left that overnight and came back to nearly a disaster.
Oh no! That's not happening.
Fortunately, it just came off. At least I know it's held down well. Quick trim with the Stanley knife. Sand it all flush. And this is how it'll work. So whenever I have my chisels out, basically I'm just going to clamp that down to the bench and I'll be able to continuously strop them to try and maintain the edge. Tiny bit of wax rubbed in just to give it longevity and also just to seal the edges of that cowhide leather so it doesn't start to fray. I didn't have a burnishing block, so I just got a scrap of bed slate. It'll do a good enough job for this anyway. And there she is, top and bottom layer, and we can load her all up. I hope this gave you some organisational ideas. Everything in the Fixit Fingers workshop has to have a home, and my new sharpening kit is now all in one place. The Carbotech pencil wouldn't fit in there terribly well, but that's alright. Adjust and overcome. Now it does. I even raised the strop up so it's easier to get there with that little block. Derek Lark's angle finder, and we'll hide the pen. Now that worked well, right in there. Cool bananas. Easy as you like. Keeping stuff neat and tidy is the key to a productive shop. At least that's what I think anyway. That slides lovely, lovely. Job done. And if you want to see what all of that bits and pieces are for, then check out last week's video. I'll link it up here for you. Catch you on the next one. James from Fixit Fingers out.